Hi, this is Steve Webster. Thanks for joining today's thought. So today we're going to talk about, is it possible that God could just move you and your whole family from one place to another place geographically in a unusual way? So this is just a short testimony to talk about how that is possible and that actually happened to us. So if you find this interesting, feel free to share it with someone else that may come to your mind. Otherwise, let's get started. So back in the day, as we say, we used to live in Maryland, Baltimore suburb of Maryland. I worked for Marriott Distribution Services, a company underneath the Marriott umbrella. I was there for about 13 years working IT, senior programmer analyst slash project manager. I was asked a very difficult project at one point, which was the Y2K project. It was quite the big thing to resolve. If we didn't do anything, the world would have been chaos, but thankfully we had time, we knew about it, we took care of it, no problems. So after working there for about 13 and a half years, the upper Marriott company decided to close the concept. Even though it created and brought in $2 billion, they decided it was time to close it because some of the bread and butter companies were leaving the company, or as customers, I should say. So they just decided to close it. And usually, when this happens to, especially larger companies, they want lawyers, HR, IT folks to hang around the longest. To help to accomplish that, since I was also in IT, they would give you like this carrot to say, well, if you stay to the end, you get all this stuff, right? And we'll help you find another job, and you can still file for unemployment, and blah blah blah. So I said, yeah, okay. So I signed the paper, whatever, and then it was time for me to be let go. And then when I was let go, it's like, okay, for a short period of time, I could play unemployment benefits in the state of Maryland, receive the severance package. It was 3 months or something like that. Maybe it was a bit more. And at one point, I thought, wow, I make more money doing nothing than I did previously. But again, it was a short time frame. So then it was time to get serious, of course, to say, well, where else can I find a job? So I decided to kind of draw a circle geographically, at least in my mind, and also looking at maps of like Baltimore, Washington. So I looked for jobs. I was thinking about trying to work for Marriott, I should say first, but nothing for that type of software and things that I got into seemed like a good fit. I didn't see any other opportunities at that particular time for me to attempt. So oddly enough, even though they're in Bethesda and we were located in Savage, Maryland before DC, uh, I didn't. I might apply for a couple, but nothing really happened. So I was looking for jobs, interview after interview. I had about two or three or four third round interviews, and each time you think, "Oh, this is it. I'm going to get it." I think one of the last ones I tried was Choice Hotels in Washington D.C., and I went to my third interview, and again I thought it went well, and then I got, in this case, I think they called me, which was nice. They called me and said, "Well, we decided to hire within." When I asked, I said, "Oh, okay, whatever." So, and then I thought, okay, time's clicking. Um, why don't I expand the circle? So we moved from Pennsylvania to Maryland. So I thought, well, why don't I draw the circle from like Maryland all the way down, including Florida, because we've been to Florida a couple of times. So I looked for jobs up and down Carolinas, Georgia, Florida. And then I saw one in Lakeland, Florida, and that's where we ended up moving to. But at the time I saw that, I saw a job where it was a project manager. At the time, I was a senior programmer analyst slash project manager. And I said, well, this will be just project management. And it seems to be a step up in a sense, right? It has the word manager on it. And so I applied and they said, well, yeah, why don't you come on in for an interview? I said, well, or they noticed I was from Maryland. And I said, well, we're not able to fly you down for an interview. But if you can come here, we'd like to talk to you about this position. I said, okay, on our money, we would fly down. I would fly down. So I also made an interview at a local Christian school to tour as well on the day I would go down, talk to my recruiter who was the in-between person after the interview, of course, in Lakeland, Florida. But when I mentioned this idea to my wife, it was interesting. She says, well, move, or we have establishment, we have friends, we have church, we have all these things here. And we were plugged in through a church, small groups, and like I said, school friendships. And my daughter was in fifth grade, my son was first grade at that time. And she said, well, I need five things. I don't remember maybe all five things, but one was like church, Assemblies of God Church in Lutherville, Maryland. That size, that type of church was available in Lakeland called Victory Church. I go, wow, what a great fit. My daughter was plugged into Missionettes, a 3-year program. They're entering their third year. I found out down there they also, of course, have Missionettes, and they were actually in the third year. So, I didn't realize it'd be timed that way. So I said, okay, the church is off the list. Well, I'm concerned about school. Our church has started a startup Christian school. That's where Hannah and Austin are going. And so I found this Lakeland Christian School. They're about to celebrate their 50th anniversary. I think Chuck Colson was going to come as a featured speaker. And I mentioned it to her. We saw some stuff online. She said, wow, that's mature. Ours is just growing and stuff. And so that was appealing, right? And then I said, well, there's a job and we need a job. And I'm going down for an interview. Nothing's guaranteed. And she says, okay. So I got on a plane. I flew down. My brother and sister-in-law just bought a house. They weren't there yet. I forget, they're out of town or something. So I had access to the key. I got in there, rental car, got my key in there. Then I drove the next morning from Orlando area down to Lakeland for the job interview for this company. And I thought it went well. I thought it went well, and I was happy. I was really happy about the interview. Because again, I've been through a few in Baltimore, Washington corridor area. So I met, I think it was at Applebee's with the recruiter, updated her. Yeah, everything seemed to go well. Then I went over to Lakeland Christian School and I had a video camcorder and for the tour because, this is different. This is hallway is kind of like outside, which is what you don't have up in Maryland, of course. So I had the tour, explaining things. And then she stopped. She says, well, this class is where your daughter would be. In fact, this would be her class. And I said, oh, so I put the camcorder down. I walked in. She said, excuse me, everyone, but this is Mr. Webster. And if they decided to come here, their daughter Hannah would actually be in this class. And she says, well, Mr. Webster, why don't you put your camera back up? And class, if you could turn around and just say, hi, Hannah. Did that. Stepped out, leaned against the hallway brick wall, whatever, after the door was closed. And I took a deep breath, trying not to cry a little bit. And she says, are you okay? I said, well, I just thought about this possibility happening. Wouldn't it be cool if something like that would happen? It actually happened. I go, wow. So then we went to my son's class where he would be, and they did the same thing. Then I flew back and I got the family together, showed the videotape. And I remember my daughter in fifth grade. It was interesting because she was watching it and she was like, she saw the school, she saw the activities. She's sports minded at this point, and they had sports programs, and plus the beauty of the school and everything compared. And it was matured, like I said, about the 50th year at that time. And they were in part of a startup, and then when she saw the kids turn around, hi Hannah, she said, I want to be there. No, that's wrong thinking, sort of thing. I have friends here, so I could see God's working on her. Right? My son's one, so not quite as mature as a fifth grader, uh, but he seemed excited. And not 1 year old, but in first grade, I should say. So I was like, wow, this is interesting. But then I get the call. Again, I'm sitting in Maryland, and they said we decided to go with a project manager that's all they do, and some experience there. I said, oh, okay. Because I was looking at it as like maybe a little promotion and stuff. Like I said, that's a bummer. So I had maybe another interview or so around the Baltimore, Washington corridor, and I was expanding, looking, and I said to her, I said, time is clicking here. Funds are getting low, to my wife, and I said, Lakeland's between this Tampa, Orlando area. Surely I could find something. Maybe it's just more time. And my brother said he would love to have us move in with him for that period of time, whatever it takes. He's got a bigger house they're about to move into, and we could have a place, a couple rooms upstairs. And I said, well, okay. So I mentioned to Lisa, and these 5 things seem to be getting checked off, except we don't have a home in Florida. We don't have a school yet, but we have an idea where we want to put them. Um, these things. So we decided to put the house up for sale. Got in our Toyota, used Toyota minivan, and we headed south. So I guess you could say technically you're kind of homeless when we left the house, but whatever. So we get into my brother's house, and we kind of move in. We use this ABF trailer thing that they moved it for us, whatever. We packed it and we unpacked it ourselves for the discount. And so we get settled in there, and then we said, well, the school says they could get moved in, So we drove from Orlando, Lakeland Christian School, got them in class. And while we're down in Lakeland, we found a buyer's agent to buy a house. We're looking around. The house is for sale, so it would have to be a contingency arrangement. And we're looking at a few houses, and then to my surprise, at the time they said, well, we have what's called inventory spec homes. They built it without an owner, and they're brand new. I said, wow, I never thought about moving into a brand new house before. Wow, okay. So then, and as time progressed, I get a phone call from the same company. We would like you to come down. We think we have a job that would fit very well for you, and we would like you to come down. And they said, and I said, are you still in Maryland, right? I said, no, we actually moved to Florida. We're in Orlando. Oh, well, part of this arrangement would be we would pay the expense from Orlando to Lakeland. They were going to do that anyhow from Maryland if they accepted it. I said, no, we're actually in Florida. I said, wow. So they said, however, we'd like you to bring your wife. I go, okay. So at least I get in the car. We drive down for the appointed time, and the job was more of an application programming type of thing, not project management, but with some other heavy responsibilities like big major software upgrades, perhaps. And I really liked it, and I was excited. Of course, we're kind of desperate at this point because funds are running out. We got kids in private school, it costs money. Scholarships help, but only to a certain extent. We got to move out of my brother's house eventually. So I really wanted the job, but the salary was too low. I mean, it was like $30,000 less, and it's like, man, that is really deep cut. Yeah, I know things are probably better in Maryland, Washington with salary, but and this is Lakeland, but still 30,000. So uh, he says, well, I'm offering a $10,000 sign-up bonus as well. Move you plus $10,000 bonus at this salary. So I thought, and I said, well, can you move that $10,000 bonus and roll it into the salary? And then for whatever reason, maybe the Holy Spirit, plus it's a technique, I guess, I remained quiet. So I didn't say a word. And I don't think I was moving much. I don't remember moving. I just held firm. And it was like the Spirit was saying, don't say anything. Right? And then he started to move back and forth, twirling around, looking up, takes a pencil on the desk, and he says, okay, I can do that. I can do that. So he broke the silence. He says, I can do that. We shook hands, and, he liked both of us, Lisa and I. And so I signed the paper, had a start date, and then eventually there's this house on the south side of town. I said, wow, this has got nice elbow room in it, the first floor and everything. And then the foyer had the same flooring as we just put in our kitchen. It's like a vinyl thing, but it was very nice. And Lisa thought, well, wait a minute. We had a remnant for a while, and we finally put it down. It's the same floor. Is this like a little connection thing going on? I said, I don't know. I told him, I said, I know you said it's a great school system down here, but it's just too much money. And he says, and I said, the kids are actually in Christian school right now, so we don't care about the school system anywhere. Oh, well, I have this exact same house he meaning the elevation by the same manufacturer or the builder, up on the north side of what we call, and for $30,000 less. So I was like, wow, let's go. So we went, and this one actually had a screening back porch built in as part of the house, and it's a spec home as well. I said, well, this is even better. And then the cupboard seemed better, more of a lighter maple thing. Um, and we decided to buy it. So to wrap up this story, um, I felt like we did things backwards, right? And I should say one more thing. We had everything. I need to add this one more thing. We had everything lined up. The move-in date has been established. They're scheduled to move us, right? The company I'm working for from Orlando to this house. Everything's lined up. And then my realtor up in Maryland calls me, and we have a buyer, right? We have a buyer. That's why we have a move-in date and everything. We're waiting for the closing date. And the realtor from Maryland calls me up and says they have backed out. I said, no, this can't happen. I mean, this has to happen. I said, no, they backed out. And he apologized and everything, of course. And I said, well, I would like to talk to them myself. They said, well, that's not how we do things. It's like realtor to realtor. I said, well, it doesn't hurt to ask. Ask them if I can talk to them myself. I said, okay, I'll try. And sure enough, he calls me back and says, yeah, they'll talk to you one-on-one, so to speak. So I get on the phone. I talk to them. I said, I know you were interested in the house. We had a closing date. And I assume that's still true. Yeah, we like the house. I said, well, can I ask why, what's holding you back from the closing? Well, we're really concerned about the age of the roof. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'll pay for that at closing. Is there anything underneath the carpet in the bathroom, which is appropriate, really? There's the tile's too loose. I said, okay, yeah, at closing, we'll pay for new tile. And I said, okay, so do we have a deal? Yeah. So we can keep the same date? Yeah. I said, okay. So it happened. We sold the house. They moved us. The company moved us down. We moved into the house. So to wrap up the story, then God, I felt like He moved us. We did things backwards. It's kind of like on faith, we go to Florida. He gives us shelter through my brother, right? Then we put the kids in Christian school, even with scholarship, still costs money, and money's running out. We're driving from Orlando to Lakeland back and forth. That's kind of like unfaith. And then I get a call saying, this is from the same company, we want to hire you. And after some negotiation, you're hired, we got a job now. Money's going to be coming in soon. We find a brand new house, not just a house. It was even better than what we first saw. It was $30,000 cheaper. So everything seemed backwards, but we saw where God was in each along the steps. So I hope this was encouragement to you. So if you know anyone where this could benefit, please share it with them. And if you like the video, please like so I have some sort of feedback. Thanks and God bless.